Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts and ideas to help grow healthy, happy, successful families that are both inside
And outside the box. If you like the show, be sure to follow Christina on Facebook.
And please leave us a like review on your favorite podcast platform.
I now have the pleasure of reintroducing Mrs. CJ Scarlett. CJ is a kids safety crusader, award-winning author, and a badass grandma. She helps parents empower their kids to protect and defend themselves from bullies and predators through her Heroic Parenting 101 online course and upcoming Heroic Kids Safety Games app. A survivor of childhood abuse, teen sexual assault, and a narrow escape from a sex trafficking ring, CJ spent years dealing with the emotional aftermath of her experience. After taking her power back, she became an advocate for others who had been victimized, running a child advocacy center and serving as director of victim issues for the North Carolina Attorney General's office. Over her 30 years as a victim advocate, CJ has helped thousands of survivors claim their power too, forming the former roller skating car hop, forest firefighter, and U.S. Marine photojournalist, holds a master's degree in human violence, named one of the happy 100 people on the planet. CJ's story of triumph over adversity is featured in several best-selling books. Welcome, CJ. It is a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Herb and Christina, I am so thrilled to be here again. We had such a great time last time, so let's do it again.
We absolutely did. And for people who are like, wait a minute, she's already been here once. It's like, yes, but unfortunately for you, it's been almost 2 years. So November of 23, episode number
54
is where you can find CJ's first go around with us and having fun with us and sharing us her passion and her story. But today we really want to have an update and let her share her part of her story again and see what's happening, because there's lots of different things happening in this realm. And there's more awareness around child safety, but we're also kind of wondering, has it been making a difference? I know every child we save is amazing, but is it making that big impact, that big difference? So thank you again, CJ, for joining us today.
Thanks, Christina.
Can you tell us, we got a lot in your bio, but just kind of give us a real short recap. You can go back to episode 54 and get the big long story, but remind us about this pivot that in your life that really made you turn into the badass grandma. It's like, why in the world do you want that?
I don't know if I told this story the last time I was on, but there was a cataclysmic moment that led me to really focus my efforts on protecting other kids from abuse. I'm a survivor and I had a lot of trauma from what happened, a lot of PTSD. And one day when one of my sons was about 12, we were at the community pool and he was about, I don't know, 25 meters from me. And I was watching him in the pool and I saw an older man sidle up next to him in the water. And then I saw the look on my son's face. And I beelined around the pool. And the whole time, the man scampered out of the water because I'm yelling the whole time, stop that man. But nobody did because they didn't know what had happened. The man had been trying to fondle my son under the water. And I was devastated because, like almost every other parent out there, I thought that as long as I kept my eye on my kids, they'd be okay. But two things happened. One is that I realized that things can happen right in front of you that you don't see or that you do see and don't know what to do anything about. And the part that devastated me was that I thought the cycle of violence and abuse in my family had stopped with me. And it had not, because I didn't teach my kids how to protect and defend themselves, because I didn't know at that point how to protect and defend myself, let alone teach my kids. So it was a real turning point for me. And I was already a child advocate at that point, but what got me into writing the books and creating the online course and then now the kid safety game is that moment, that pivotal moment when I saw my son being abused right before my eyes.
Yeah, that's just like, yeah, the heart-wrenching, heart dropping is like, oh my God.
Oh,
Like you said, you were there, you were doing what a quote unquote good parent should do. You were paying attention, you were close by, all of those things. And then to have it happen right there is like, yeah.
yeah. And I've heard so many parents say, oh, I don't need this. I don't need this training, or I don't need to read that book or whatever, because I keep an eye on my kid. Well, first of all, they're out of your sight for the vast majority of the day at school or with friends or whatever, or in bed. And you don't see everything and you can't stop everything. And in my case, there were several relatives that were sketchy. We had a very dirty old uncle And he was at all the parties, he was at all the picnics, and he got away with an awful lot because he was the fun uncle. He was funny as hell. I mean, he was just hilarious, and we all
Yeah.
just adored him. But he was also funny in that sketchy sense.
Yeah, got it. Oh wow. Yeah. All of that is just like one of those things you kind of step into. And so what would you say? I mean, right off the bat, what do you say to those parents? Like, I don't need this because I pay attention to my kids, besides maybe sharing that story. What else? What
I
other
do
good
often share that
statistics or
story.
whatever do you have for them?
Yeah, I also share that a lot of people misunderstand who the perpetrators are. They think it's mostly strangers. And
Mhm.
stranger danger is great for kids, but I think it goes too far because sometimes you need a stranger to help you out. But in fact, only less than 7% of crimes against kids are committed by strangers offline. I'm talking in person.
Right.
Online is a different story that we'll get to, but in person, less than 7% are actually strangers. The other 93% are people they and their parents probably trust and like. And so it's just not that easy to say, I keep an eye on my kids. I'm sure they keep a closer eye when their kids are around a stranger,
Mhm.
but where you need to be wary is when you're with anybody. They're with anybody. If your kid gives off clues that they're uncomfortable or afraid, there are things you can teach them that will have them come to you first with questions and concerns about their safety. And that's what every parent wants. They want to be the one that the child feels comfortable and safe with to talk about things like that.
Yeah. And that isn't easy, even if you know. I was bullied a
Right.
lot. The sexual trauma didn't happen to me, but
Hmm.
I was bullied a lot, and I have a lot of trauma around that. When my sons started running into that, it shut me down because it triggered me back into being a kid and when I was bullied. And so it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this when that happened, it put me back into my trauma as a child and
Hmm.
it shut me down. So parents are like, oh, I can do this. It's like, you know what, if that trauma has happened to you, it could very much trigger you and shut you down and make it very
Hmm.
difficult for you to
And
be able to advocate for your children. That
That's
happened.
correct. And a lot of survivors of domestic violence or child abuse of some kind are very numb and kind of used to that kind of behavior. I don't know how to say this correctly, but when something does happen in front of them, when they're the adult and it's their child involved, they may dissociate, they may go blank, they may see it but think, oh my gosh, it can't be as bad as what I'm seeing. They may have all kinds of things they tell themselves if they're even emotionally aware enough to really do something and step in.
yeah. And we don't want to make this doom and gloom, but just an awareness of if you're listening to this and you have something in your past, make sure you're working with either a therapist, a psychologist, a coach, somebody to, bring yourself to a place of good standing and centering so you can be aware and you can be there for your kids, right? One
And
of
you can stop the cycle of violence in your family. It ends with you.
Yeah.
It ends with
One of the
us.
things I talk about on one of my signature talks when I go on different podcasts and things is that, if you're dealing with that, you're going through your counseling or whatever, you need to, what I call, air your dirty laundry. And what that means for me and for the kids, that you need to tell your kids, I'm going through something. Of course, it has to be completely age appropriate. I may be a little more emotional than normal, or I may be, but also be that good role model that when you're having your up day, your bad day, your down day, that you're telling them is like, hey, today's going to be a rough day for me because I'm kind of processing some things. But again, age appropriate. But then you're also modeling for your kids about how you're dealing with it and how you're working to change things so that you can handle things better.
That is so important to say that, Christina. Kids pick up on those cues, our emotional cues. We may think we're hiding it well and that we're coming across as normal and copacetic. Kids can read the room like nobody's business, and they know something's wrong. And if they don't find out what the real problem is, every child will turn it inward and blame himself for the parent's uneasiness or discomfort or fear or whatever. The child will put themselves in the middle of that story and think, I've done something wrong
Mhm. Yeah,
to
exactly.
upset mom or to upset dad.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be anything super traumatic like what we're talking about. It can even be finances. I mean, we went through our financial times with our kiddos, and instead of
Mhm.
telling them, "Hey, we're not going to do something extra this month because our finances are kind of wonky," we tried to hide it from them and tried to brush it off and things like that. And they knew, but again, they were like, "Oh, well, what's happening because mom and dad aren't as happy as they usually are or whatever. So again, age appropriate, but let
Yes.
them know when something's kind of going on.
Good advice.
Yeah, so I'm still processing my stuff right now because again, I'm going through times when my kids were bullied. So when I was bullied and I would try and take it to my parents didn't know what to do. And so eventually you stop going to them. So when my kids were bullied, I could see they wanted me for help, but I didn't know what to do. I shut down. I got angry, and when I tried to react, it's like I didn't react well. And so going to the school system, trying to hold myself together while helping my child became like nightmarish. And so, yeah, I wasn't good at it.
So can you give our parents right now a tip or two to maybe help them through this?
And so, yeah,
How
breaking that childhood, the family, what is it? They call it I'll think of the word in family trauma
cycle.
So, yeah, whatever. But you have a whole family that hasn't learned how to deal with it. I would talk about the stuff that happened to me as a kid and with family, and they would hear, and so they would hear about my trauma, and they then handled it almost the way I did because that's what they saw. And so my shutdown, my withdrawal, my kids went through that, and I saw that, and I couldn't help.
It's devastating, isn't it, to see your child go through something that is so painful for you yourself? I do have a couple tips. One, I mean, of course, again, you want the child to feel comfortable coming to you, and your reaction to all matters makes a difference in whether they see you as a safe person or someone who's going to get bent out of shape or overreact or whatever. If your child's being bullied and you come to them and because they've been taught this, they say, well, stand up to him and hit him first or hit him back or whatever, that's not helpful. Or if you say, I'm going to kill that kid, that your child will shut down. They will not speak another word. They will not tell you about another bullying incident because there's an overreaction there. And they want something to happen to change the situation, but they don't want that kid killed. You know what I mean? And that often happens in cases of child sexual abuse where the parent will find out and they want revenge. They want vengeance. And they exhibit that in front of the child, and the child feels horrible because it may be the perpetrator may be someone they like or love, and they don't want to get them in trouble. One really cool thing you can do, I have these get out of jail free cards. I don't have one on me right now, but these get out of jail free cards that you give to your child when they're as young as 5 or 6. And they can present that card anytime they've made a poor choice, like going on a sleepover and they invited boys over and things got out of hand. Or they were in a situation where they were uncomfortable or afraid or in danger. They can pull that card out virtually or literally, pull that card out, and the parent will come pick them up or come get them or whatever they are. Will listen, will not have any scolding at that moment, will not have any consequences in that moment until the next day when everybody's calm. You parents have their reaction, but out of sight of the child. And then the parent sits down with the child, nice and calm, and says, okay, tell me what happened. And let's talk about what you could do differently if that ever happened to you again. And then when considering consequences, you take into account the fact that your child was smart enough to come to you. And that, again, it just reinforces for them that mom and dad are safe people that they can come to because they're not going to overreact. They're going to have a solution. They're going to listen and validate and believe the child. And I actually will give
capable of what you're talking about until very recently. I'm 55. At 25 to 35, I wasn't mature enough. I didn't have the capacity to do what you're talking about. So how do we start teaching our young parents, our young adults to be able to do this? Because it takes a great deal of self-awareness and personal work to be able to see your trauma happening to somebody else and to then not only not have the reaction within you, but to be able to calmly deal with it for somebody else. That's a big ask. That is not a simple thing.
And I did like you did when my son was molested in the pool. I had an overreaction. I just could not help myself because I was so triggered and I was so upset that he had been harmed. Fortunately, it was a very minimal incident, but he had been put in that position of feeling that uncomfortable and did not know what to do, did not know how to speak and tell the man, get the hell away from me, back off, whatever. I was devastated, and my son saw me devastated, and he saw me angry, but with no explanation to kind of give context. So his thinking was probably in that moment of, I'll never tell mom again because I don't want to get her upset. So what I recommend for parents who are younger, who may not yet have a full control over their reactions if something like this, like what happened to them, happens to their child, is that something I did often, and that's back out of the room. Say, I want to talk to you about this. We're going to have a conversation about this, but I need a minute. And literally back yourself out of the room. Go into your bedroom, lock the door, do whatever you got to do until you get a hold of yourself enough to be present for your child, because otherwise it becomes about you. It becomes your story. Your story goes in front of the child's, and their needs are subsumed to yours. And of course, no parent wants that. But for me, it was, I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I backed out of the door and said, Mommy needs a minute.
And
And
yeah, and because we're starting these conversations so much earlier than we used to, because we're starting with a podcast like this, right? Parents, even though we weren't capable, hopefully the parents are listening and becoming more capable now. So, it's not going to be perfect, but hopefully we can really make sure that all of it, plays better into what we need to do for our kiddos. Yeah.
my barky dogs, I think someone's delivering a package, and so they're going to bark until that person has been chased
Oh, you're
away.
totally fine. Nope, totally fine.
We're
We
not
can't-
hearing them.
We're not hearing
And
them.
you're good. Every once in a while, our dogs are right behind us. They'll jump up and shake and bark, and she'll be like, "Oh, I got to mute." And it's like, it's life.
Life.
It's like,
Yeah, especially when we have parents with kids in the house. So like a little face will pop up, or they'll have to say something to their kiddo. It's like, you know what? This is a family show, and we are living real life. And so appreciate your awareness of it, and we're a-okay. So you talked about that get out of jail
free card. If you have just 1 second, I'm going to grab one so I can hold it up to the camera.
Oh, okay.
Hang on a
And
sec.
while you do that, I'll keep talking here, because that is your free gift. So in the show notes,
Zoe, stop.
in the show notes, everybody that you'll be able to email CJ, and she will be able to send that to you. So for those of you on YouTube, this is what it looks like. There it is. Perfect.
And on the back, you can put your contact information, how to reach me, my home, my cell number, my work number, and another contact. And that way the child, if they're literally carrying this around and not just using it virtually, they know how to reach mom and dad. Or another safe person, if that's the case.
And that's one thing anymore that we really have gotten away from. As a teacher, I taught second grade for so many years. We literally made our kids learn their name, their address, their parents' phone numbers, things like that, for that safety reason.
Mm-hmm.
And now anymore, we just kind of like pick up our phone and say, oh, it's this and this and this. But for our youngers, and for those who, don't have access all the time, it's like, do you still teach your name, address, phone number to your kids? Do they really know that information so they can get home if they get lost?
And do they know your name? Does your child even know your name?
Yeah.
Or
To them,
name.
your mom, your dad, do they really know your name? My grandkids were shocked a couple of years ago when I told them my name, because I was just Grammy.
Yeah.
You have a name? What?
I have a name.
Wait, Grammy isn't your name? Yeah, I know, right? And then all of our pet names is so Grammy or Nona or whatever, the family tradition kind of is like, yeah, it's important to tie a more recognizable name instead of to that. Awesome. So to give us an update on your company and your business a little bit, I know you had your book, and I know you've been working on a course, and then in your bio you said something about an app. What's that going to do? How's that going to help parents?
I can't wait to talk about the app. Well, the 3 books were published two were published in 2022, and the third one, number 5 of all my books, the third parenting book, was published in 2024. And then I launched the Heroic Parenting 101 online course, which is based on the books, in May, the end of May this year. Okay. And the course teaches parents how to empower their kids to avoid bullies and predators and protect and defend themselves. It's really, really important that the children know how to do it for themselves, because they'll use those skills the rest of their lives. And one thing we've had on our radar for a long time that we're starting now is development on the Heroic Kids Safety Game app. it's going to break by age group, by age and developmental level, present the child with safety or danger scenarios. So to put it kind of in a cliche way, you know, the stranger offers you candy from their car. What do you do? And the child can choose from various superpowers. We're working with Kid Power International as a partner, and that's the oldest and best known global nonprofit focused on kids safety. And so the child can choose from walk away power, tell power, speak up power, and they get to choose these how they're going to respond, and they'll see how it plays out.
Okay.
Now, as a child gets to middle and high school, we get the graphics become more sophisticated, and they'll look more like a real game character by the time they're teenagers. And the scenarios will change a little bit. There'll be similar scenarios, but they'll have more consequences. So the child will know, has a choice of getting in the car with a stranger or meeting that person that they only know online or whatever, and seeing what the consequence, not seeing the consequences as in we play out the whole thing, but it will show them that this is an unwise choice. And at the beginning, they get to choose an avatar of themselves, and they get to choose an animal avatar as well, who acts as their sidekick, as their inner compass and intuition. So that animal sidekick goes with them everywhere they go. And if the animal sidekicks sees you making an unwise choice, it will start getting more agitated and circle around you to make you think again about the choice you're making.
I love that, because we talk often about intuition and that inner gut feeling or that inner voice that really is supposed to help guide kids. And if they don't have some practice with it, if they don't really know what that is, if you haven't talked about it as a family, then they may lose that when they get older.
Yeah,
So yeah, we actually
exactly.
had a lady on who wrote a book about their intuition and the child's intuition. So, you know, it's just something really important that parents foster and develop with their children, just like you as a parent foster and develop. So lots of times, you know, whenever we're talking about education, the parents are like, oh, well, no, I need to listen to the educator. I need to listen to the principal, et cetera, et cetera. But instead, I'm like, I tell parents, like, listen to your own gut. If there's something not right at school, talk about it with your parents' school, talk about it with your teacher.
And along with the game for the kids, there will be There'll be a
Okay.
parent portal. The parent portal lets the parent choose all the options to protect their child from going to an inappropriate level. So in the beginning, the parent chooses the level their child can be at and approves it. And then helps the child choose an avatar and a sidekick, or at least gets to see what their animal avatar and their avatar is. And then the parent will be notified or told all the way through where their child is in the game, if they encountered any difficulty, so they can talk about it. And then there'll be handouts like there are on the online course. Things like if your child's been sexually abused, here's what happens next, or here's how to document bullying incidents and take it to the school and get real action, things like that. And the parents will be learning alongside the child, and they'll be getting talking points to have these conversations with the kids. The reason we made the kids game is that despite the books, despite the online course, so many parents either believe that nothing will happen as long as they're watching their kid, like we talked about. They're ignorant of the dangers, and so they don't know what to say or how to say it to their kid. They're willfully ignorant, meaning that if I think about it, it's going to happen. So they're scared. Or I'm going to be too embarrassed to talk to my kid. I'm afraid that I'll screw it up. And you're going to make mistakes when you're doing this, but parents tend to think this is a one-time data dump conversation on their kid, and it's not. Body safety conversations are topics that take place over the years as they're growing up. You don't have to do it all at once, and you don't have to make it high pressure. One of the things I recommend in the book's online course and in the parent portal is that you practice daily sharing with your kids and monthly family meetings. And with the daily sharing, doesn't matter what's happening in your life, you take 15 minutes minimum a day, and the phone gets set down, and you're looking your child in the eye and you have a conversation.
Yeah.
And so you're staying abreast of what's going on in their life. Because if you're thumbing through your phone and you say, "How was your day, hon?" They're going to go, "It was fine." And that's it. And their day wasn't fine. It was filled with adventures and failures and laughter. There's so much richness and joy there that you don't get to tap into if you're asking these simple monosyllabic questions. And with the the monthly family meetings, that's when, starting from the time a child is 4 or 5, the whole family gets together. It could be Sunday night with pizza and games afterward. And you change the roles, so the child gets an opportunity to be the leader and the timekeeper and the secretary and all that stuff. And you talk about things that are happening in the family. You know, are we going to get a new dog now or wait 6 months? Are we going to move? School starting, what do you need? That sort of thing. So everybody's on the same page. And then you have a body safety topic of the month, giving your child a chance to practice like the self-defense moves I teach, the TAS self-defense moves, and going through some of the body safety lessons. And it's an opportunity for the children get used to it. Even teenagers who grumble and gripe about it can get used to this. Your teenager refuses to participate, you can always just change the Wi-Fi password for a while until they decide they want to sit in on the family meeting.
Yeah.
There's
So
ways to leverage
as
these
you're
things.
as you're discussing this, me as a 55-year-old dude who's been through what I've been through, I'm thinking, man, I couldn't do that. I'm this. It's like I didn't have that understanding. But I'm thinking as a 55-year-old guy, how I am now in my life experiences. Go back to 25 years when I didn't know this much, when I 20, 21, 22, when
Yeah.
we were having kids,
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
much. So if you're, so yeah, right
This
now
is
it's like
perfect
I'm
timing.
getting triggered in all of this because it's like, wow, I didn't have these tools. Even if I had heard this, it's like I'm thinking I can't do that. That's too much. I don't understand.
Mhm.
Never done anything like that. I don't have that kind of framework. So those people who are sitting here, it's like, wow, that's that. I can't do that. I don't have that understanding. I can't talk like that to my kids. How do we
Mhm.
get started? Where?
Yeah.
Because it's
That's
like,
what's so great about the game is that it goes directly to the children on the very devices that are where the most of the danger lies, their tablets or their phones. And it engages a child with this information about their body safety issues, you know, how to protect and defend themselves from bullies and predators. And the parent portal, again, it's going to notify you where your kid is in the game, and it's going to give you prompts for conversations. If you're still, and I look back and I was beating myself for, gosh, for so many years for not teaching my kids what they needed to know. My mantra is I did the best I could at the time.
Yeah.
I was doing the very best I could at the time, and I got better. And so any parent starting anywhere, coming from anywhere, any history can start small and build up. But it's important that the parent who's been traumatized themselves also know this information. I mean, I was into my 50s before I started setting boundaries, before I started saying no to things that did not serve me or that were made me uncomfortable. It took me that long to get my act together enough to start applying what I was trying to teach these kids to myself.
Yep.
So it can take some time, and it definitely can be triggering for parents, you know, or it can intimidate parents, like you said. I mean, they may not have a history of bullying or abuse in their own lives, but the idea of, oh, I just lost my light. I'm sorry. It's a little technical glitches today.
No worries.
Um, so I lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, so any parent really can, most parents I think would feel intimidated about the idea of having this conversation. The reason my parents didn't talk to me about sex and drugs and rock and roll and all that stuff when I was 15 and got pregnant at 15 was because they were too embarrassed
Right.
to have a conversation with me about boundaries because they didn't, and I was angry with them for a lot of years. Like, you did not prepare me to be in this world, and I suffered because of it. But then I finally came to the awareness that my parents didn't know what to teach me. They didn't know it was appropriate. And so I stopped blaming them and started blaming really the abusers who deserve the blame. Those are the folks
one of
that
the
acted
interesting
improperly.
things about life is that as you get older, when you think of stuff that happened to you as a kid, you view it from the lens of how old you are now.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look back at
Yeah.
when I was bullied, I look back at it as a 55-year-old, and I'm ashamed and embarrassed that I didn't stand up for myself because, ooh, all the stuff that I know now.
Yeah.
Brain sciences says that the last major changes in your brain happen between 25 and 28, a little bit later for
Mhm.
boys. And
Mhm.
that last change gives you regret and the ability to look back at your life. And so before that really happens, you don't look back and get new lessons from stuff you already went through. But after
Yeah.
that age, you kind of start looking back at your life. And so that difference in there, the children, the parents, the young parents don't have that last little brain structures to be
Mhm.
able to not understand, but grasp these concepts because that last brain structure of looking back hasn't fully developed yet.
Yeah.
So
Which is amazing.
so parents do also have to give themselves a break, because we're talking like old people who oh, if we had known this when we were a kid, we would have got it. That's bullshit. Excuse the language.
Yep. You are right. You are right.
We were kids. We didn't know what we were doing. Our parents didn't have the internet.
Necessarily.
The books that back then were the best that they had.
And it was, well, it was a hidden, it was a secret. You didn't talk about those things because it was inappropriate. It was embarrassing for the family. Yeah.
So
different times.
As almost a generation, we weren't presented these tools.
Yeah.
And
so now that's why.
And so how now? And so it's like, oh, kids, you guys have to do this. And it's like, we don't know. We're really just guessing as well. We know that we did it wrong. And well, not wrong. We could have done it way better. And we're hoping that some of the stuff that we're giving you is better. And we have track records that it is. But you also have to give yourselves a break, because we didn't get it right. That's why we're here trying to help the next generation get it better. Because it's like, we want things better.
You know, Frederick Douglass said, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults. He said men, but it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken adults. And what I found when I was running the Child Advocacy Center is that when these children who were identified as being victims of abuse of some kind came through our doors for counseling, in 6 months, they happily bounced out of the office. I mean, there was a huge difference between how they were when they came in, blaming themselves, the story in their head that it was their fault somehow, the trauma of it all, when they were told it wasn't their fault and they got the help they needed and the support they needed and the family gave them the support they needed. They were different kids in a matter of months. I'm still in therapy. I'm 64 years old and still in therapy.
That's that 28-year-old structure, that last one that builds in. If you can put the tools into place to help release the trauma before that kicks in, then it might, because
otherwise, you can't, adults can't make that kind of, once it's cemented in your brain and you're filled with shame and you're filled with disgust and you loathe yourself, it's so hard to break that pattern. But for children, it's actually relatively simple if they get the support they need. And so we want to.
I have daily practices in my life that help me deal with that stuff from years ago. It's like, I have to deal with it daily. And it's like these kids that they can drop it and let it go. Let's teach them that earlier. That is so.
That's right. That's why I'm going to the kids themselves. That is why I'm going to the kids themselves, because first of all, the game is going to be fun. It's going to be gamified, the bells, the whistles, the sounds, the whole shooting match. And they can earn privileges like maybe more device time or more screen time, more, a sleepover, whatever, if they go through these modules, these game app sections. And they kind of they're breaking the cycle of violence for themselves and for their family when the parents may not be able to step into that role yet.
Okay. And there's one other kid type. There's the kid that's like, oh, my parents said I shouldn't do this, so I'm going to go do it and figure out why they said I shouldn't do it.
I was a lot like that at 15.
I was a lot like that. Oh, I can't do this? I wonder why. Oh, ow. Okay, I get it.
I call that the 2x4 method of learning. You hit yourself in the head with the 2x4 over and over and over again until it sinks in.
So there are certain kids that are that 2x4 method. How do we approach those kids with this information without making them want to go do something extra stupid?
Yeah, it's the cementing it in their mind so that when they are confronting an issue, a person that's making them afraid or uncomfortable, or they're in a dangerous situation, we're trying to build mental muscle memories that they can turn to. If I just known that I could say no to other older kids and adults when I was a kid, much of what happened to me would never have occurred. Just learning how to use the word no. And that's kids' favorite word. They love the word no. So let's teach them how to use it and when to use it.
Yeah. Oh, and us Gen Xers, it's like, oh, sit down, be quiet. The adults are talking.
Oh,
kids
yeah.
are supposed to be seen.
Come home when the street lights come on.
So that whole old situation like fostered these situations where this could happen.
Yeah. And online, the dangers are going up so fast. We're digital immigrants. We come to the digital world having lived in the non-digital world. Right. Our children are digital natives. We can say all day long, I hear where you're coming from, or I understand what you're dealing with, and that's BS. We do not get it.
Yeah.
And
What does
over
six
and over
seven mean?
again, what?
What does
Yeah,
6 7 mean? I've started
isn't
hearing
that
that. It's like,
isn't that parents in the room or something like that?
see,
It's a
Yeah,
kid
we have
thing
to
that
know the
they're
lingo.
saying
yeah, you can. They're speaking English and you still don't know what they're saying,
and
but
Yeah.
they do that on purpose.
There's a guy online, I can't think of what his name is right now. I'll give it to you later if you want to put it in the chat, who pretends to be a stranger, a young teenager, communicating with these girls or boys who are also teenagers, and within days proposes that they meet online at the child's house. And the child's writing, okay, my parents just left, you can come in. Well, before that ever happened, the parents are right there in the van or whatever they're doing
Yeah.
to come get the child. And the parents like, no way is my daughter going to let that guy in the house. No way is my son going to let this girl in. And
Yeah.
every single time the child lets the people come in, no matter how many times they've been told, because their brain is not fully formed.
Yep.
And of course, their first response is always, I'm so sorry, mommy. I'm so sorry, daddy. I didn't know. I didn't understand. When they're finally confronted with a full grown adult coming to their door.
Yeah.
And kids make dumb decisions. That's part of
They're
their
supposed
job.
to. That's
Experience,
part of.
yeah,
They're
experience comes
supposed to.
from, yeah, that's their job, is to test things and test the boundaries and to find out what doesn't work. What's scary is that what we know is going online, and even they know to some extent, is so much more dangerous. And you can't, if they want to put a penny in the light socket, one zap and they're done.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the online dangers, we can't afford for them to make a silly little mistake. Sending one selfie could lead to a sextortion scheme, which leads to child suicide. It's really bad out there in the online world, and you know uh, adults are
Yeah,
trying to
they're
get a
not
handle
really
on it.
telling us that much, but there's a lot of children who disappear every year too. And
Yes,
if
there
you
are.
actually hear the numbers, it's absolutely terrifying. And why
Mhm.
the news isn't reporting that something like over 100,000 children a year disappear in the United States. It's like crazy. So
Mhm.
it's and why isn't this being reported? Why aren't parents being more informed to stop this? It's like look it up. Take care of
Yeah.
your
we're
kids.
doing
That's
what
why we're
doing.
here.
That's why
Because
she's
it's like
Yes.
here. Yep.
because it's like this has to be talked about and everybody's avoiding it.
And if the people listening are parents or caregivers, foster parents, grandparents, whatever, this is your wake up call.
Mhm.
This conversation right here that you're listening to right now is your wake up call to take responsibility and say, it stops with me,
Mhm.
and I'm going to learn what I need to know to help protect my child or grandchild or foster child or whatever. And there are so many resources. I mean, the internet's bad in a lot of ways, but also is great because we have the whole world at our fingertips if we're going to do research or learn something new or take my online course or read a book or
Yeah.
have the kid play the video game.
And
There's
that's why
so
the
much out there
online
that can help them.
Yeah, and that's why
What?
the online resources are for mostly parents and adults, right? Because a child should have
Yes.
limited screen time. They should have guided screen time. They should have, they should be playing. I mean, the kids miss out
Oh.
so much now about not being
Mhm.
outside and playing and running and doing all the things that they should be doing instead of having a device in their hand. So I know I'm on my soapbox again, but kids miss out on learning. Kids miss
Yeah.
out
And
on
it's making them
life
dumber.
education. Yes,
The
it is.
device time is making them stupid. It's making
Yep.
us stupid. We don't even realize how stupid it's making us.
Yeah.
But I'm so proud of my son and daughter-in-law who have my three grandchildren because they don't get much screen time and they play outside all the time. It was
Yay.
very similar to the way I raised my son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although in
it's
my
kind of
case, I
funny.
kicked him out of the house and said, "Come back home when the lights are on." But with the
Right?
kids, they're under the watchful eye at least.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, back when we were a kid, it was like
Not quite that.
come home when it gets dark.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I have a question for you. I've been seeing lots of different snippets pop up and things like that, and there seems to be a big controversy now about sleepovers. Like, I will
Mhm.
never let my child do a sleepover again because so many bad things happened and so on and so forth. But yeah, I remember some of those being like the best times, also learning experiences for a child. Where do you kind of land on that, or what's some guidance that maybe you could give?
I think there lies danger unless you are preparing your kid and teaching them what they know to extract themselves as things get uncomfortable. So very few people know this, but a child is more likely to be molested or abused by an older child than by their own parent.
Mm-hmm.
Sibling abuse and other juvenile on juvenile abuse is much more common than is child abuse by the parents. So if the parents know where the child's going on the sleepover and they know the family and they know there aren't like guns lying around or a creepy older brother or things like that, and they feel comfortable and they've had a conversation with the parent, and saying if she wants to come home, I'll come pick her up. I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and you have the same conversation with your kid. If you feel uncomfortable at all, use that get out of jail free card. If the older brother comes into the room where the girls are having their sleepover, where the boys are having their sleepover, whatever, because it happens to boys almost as much as it happens to girls. Here's how you get out of it. Here's what you say. How you stop it. And you don't want to terrify your child, but you got to prepare them.
Yeah.
You have to prepare them to react in a situation where they could be endangered.
Yeah. So I've been seeing things also where it's like parents set up like emoji codes. So if you get a butterfly, that means come pick me up and it's your fault. Or
exactly.
come pick me up and it's my fault. Or so it's like if you need to get out of a situation, but you want your, oh, mom says I have to come home now. So
yeah, I didn't take out the trash like I said I would, or I left the wet towels on the floor, or there's been a family emergency. The parent calls the other parent and says, I have to come pick her up or him up now because of X, family emergency. He didn't do his chores, whatever. And the parent just goes and gets the child. And again, the parent is allowed to have a reaction. It's normal to have a reaction, but it's really, really, really important that they have that reaction before they pick up the kid or outside if they back themselves out of the room, so they can come to the child and say, okay, sweetie, let's talk about what happened. And let the child tell the full story, even if they screwed up, even if they made a really stupid choice. You don't judge in the moment and you're not lecturing them in the moment. You listen and say, okay, what would you do differently next time? Or what can I teach you to help you get through something like this if it ever happens again? And then again, when it comes to the consequences, you take into consideration that they called you. That is such a mature choice for a child to do that. Because I was terrified of calling my parents. I would never have called my parents when I got in so many jams. I mean, I should have died of alcohol poisoning in a field in Arkansas somewhere 10 times over when I was 15 and 16 years old. No way was I going to call my parents that I was in an unsafe situation. It just wasn't going to happen because I knew what reaction
I was a
I'd get.
geeky square kid. I would have called my parents for any reason at any time whatsoever. So, and even with that, I was still bullied. And when I was bullied and having my problems, that I didn't talk to them about because they couldn't help me with it.
What kind of advice did you get from them? Did you ever try to talk to them? And did you get advice?
I kind of, but it was, you'll be okay. Because they were shut down. They didn't know how to deal with it. They would see the other kids and want to go hurt the other kids, and that's not appropriate either. So
and that's just going to escalate things.
So they would smile, hug me, tell me it would be all right. And I'm a highly sensitive person, so I had brain damage as a kid. Opens me up to cosmic energies in a way different way. So when that happened to me, I realized my parents were lying to me. Or at least that's how I interpreted it, because they knew it wasn't going to be okay, but they kept telling me it was. And that created a sense of, well, in this case, my parents aren't telling me the truth. And so it's like I wouldn't keep going back to them because it wasn't.
You didn't get the validation, the support, and the answers you were looking for that you needed to have.
And now I have brain damage. I've messed up both my parietal lobes. That's where your emotional control centers are. I've got a big wank in my left prefrontal cortex. That's where your executive decision making is. So when I get mad, I lose it pretty easily because my structures are damaged. When I was a kid, it was not like that, but as an adult, it's gotten a lot worse. So I know that I have limitations in it. And so when I get triggered, it's very, very difficult for me to keep it together.
And the best news is our kids are all adults, so we aren't dealing with that right now. But
I'll tell you,
they got the end of it. They got the end of it.
Their teenage years.
So the end of their teenage years is when the big hit came.
For me, it was when my grandchildren were around the age I was when the abuse first started. I didn't experience this with my boys, but it jumped a generation. And when I saw how innocent and fragile and vulnerable my grandchildren were playing in the bathtub or running around, the yard or whatever, I felt this fear like, oh my God, something's going to happen to them. It was really hard to go through that. And that's one of the reasons why I started writing the books and the course and the game. Is I thought I cannot have these nightmares about every awful thing happening to my grandkids. Simply can't live that way.
Exactly.
There are answers out there. There are people to help any parent or foster parent or grandparent, because almost 3 million grandparents are raising their grandkids
Yes.
by themselves.
Yeah.
And so and they know even less about the online dangers than the average parent.
Yeah,
So
because
there's all kinds of answers
now is
out
Gen
there.
Xers. That's us. So
Yep.
our generation is raising kids, and we just talked about how we didn't have the tools.
So
And
Yeah.
we are older, and we're stubborn, and we're Gen Xers, and we, we do
But-
things our way. And so, yeah. So
But the good thing is we have an audience out here that is wanting to learn more, which is why they're following,
Yes.
which is why they're figuring it out. So
and why we're talking about it, because
why we're
this
talking
change
about
is
it.
happening. This
Yeah.
work is being
Yeah.
done.
And if you're a parent and or grandparent or foster parent out there and you're listening and you feel confused about what steps to take, my website has a ton of resources on it. And you can even email me at cj@thebadassgrandma.com. That's got the word "the" in front of Badass Grandma. So cj@thebadassgrandma.com. And I can steer you toward the resources you need. There's somebody who has the answers you're looking for. There's lots of help out there now.
Perfect. And that was my next question for you, is how do they get a hold of you? And you just told them. So that is awesome. CJ, this has been such a great conversation. Do you have one last piece of advice for parents? We've done so many ins and outs and ups and downs, and you've given them some great things. Is there one last thing that you want to tell them before we wrap up the show today?
Yes, I beg of all the caregivers and guardians out there listening right now, please, please, please learn as much as you can about ways to protect your kids, because they need it. They deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve to have healthy, happy kids. And so let them be kids and not be traumatized in the process. That you can do it. You can do it. Even just if all you do is teach them how to say no in the right situations, you're doing a great job.
Awesome. Thank you so very, very much. And thank you for being here. I love these conversations. I am so glad you said yes to coming back and sharing with us again. And
Me
we will
too.
keep in touch. And like I said, all of CJ's information is down in the show notes. So make sure that you look it up and visit the website and get that get out of jail free card. And
Yeah, email me and I'll send you a get out of jail free cards.
yeah, and make sure our kids grow up happy, healthy, and successful. So until next time, thank you so very, very much.
Thank you
Thank
for being
you.
here, CJ. Again, so many people like me, it's like we want to make a difference, but we're so shut down, or
Yeah.
we don't even see it, and it's a problem for other people. And so you are taking this problem and you're bringing awareness to it, and you're helping other people. And again, through the shame, through the anger, through the frustration, through all those things that shut us down, you're able to take that and walk with it. And that makes you a hero. You're out there fighting the
Thank
dragon.
you.
And not only are you fighting that dragon, you're bringing the stories back and helping other people with the treasure that you gained. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the hero's journey, and for stepping out in the world.
Thank you guys so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, thank you. All right, audience, you know what to do. Share, like, review, and make sure that this episode and all the other episodes get into the hands of parents who are ready to up level, to make a difference in their child's life, in their family's life. And to those who need a little bit of support, we're here for you. Just reach out. All right, bye for now.
Bye for now.
Hello and welcome to Bringing Education Home. I'm Herb.
And I'm Christina. And together we bring you experts